What's up, guys? Welcome back into the Ballroom Podcast. This is episode 4. I'm your host, Rohan Valia, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arav Bagwadi. Arav, what's going on?
What's up, guys? I'm good, Rohan. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Uh,
Kind of crazy slate of game 3, so
yeah,
should be interesting to get into.
yeah. Let's get straight into it. First of all, we got the Celtics and the Nets. The Celtics won this game 109-103, which was like Rohan and I both didn't expect, as we said in episode 1. We both thought that the Nets would win in 6, right?
I had the Nets in 7, I think.
Yeah, you had the Nets in 7. That's right. I had the Nets in 6, and
Yeah.
the Celtics are up 3-0, which is
Yeah.
which is crazy. They just seem like the complete better team over the Nets. That like Jason Tatum is just outplaying Kevin Durant. Um,
I think
even when
he's outplaying KD on offense and defense. Like
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
absolutely clamping KD, not letting him get any shots off, really. What were you gonna say?
Mhm. Who was that? Was that Charles Barkley who tweeted that he's surpassing KD, or who was that?
It may have been Chuck. He's
Yeah, I
known to
think it was
say
Chuck.
outrageous stuff like that.
No,
But
what
I
you
mean,
think?
it's not even sounding too outrageous
It's
at
not
this
really
point.
outrageous at this point.
Yeah,
39 points. He had 39.6 assists compared
yeah.
to KD's 16 points. He's getting locked up this whole Durant is getting locked up this whole series. He only shot 11 shots. Um, I think KD needs to shoot more, right?
I don't obviously he needs to shoot more, but I don't think
And
he's
he
getting
needs
the
to make his
opportunity.
shots. Yeah.
He's not
He's just
getting the
getting clamped up.
opportunity.
He's just getting
He's
clamped
barely
up.
even getting shots off to begin with. So he's getting double, triple teamed. Celtics are just throwing every action at him, every type
Mhm.
of defense they have. That's why they're the top 2, top 3 defense in the league. And they're just shutting him down, shutting him and Kyrie down. Kyrie only had 16, I think. He was 0 for 7 from
Yeah.
3 in this game. So you can
Mhm.
tell, like the last 2 games, like the Celtics defense is what's keeping KD and Kyrie back, and that's why the Nets have been struggling.
Yeah. And Jaylen Brown also had 23 points, and Peyton Pritchard was also really big off the bench. He was super efficient. Um, he went 4 for 5 from the field, 10 points, 2 3-pointers, and having Robert Williams just boosted that number one defense even more.
Yeah, and I think
Having it back was
he
huge.
was only in restricted minutes for
Yeah,
this game
minutes
for this,
restriction.
and I think next game he'll be able to play or maybe even play starter minutes. So
Mhm.
I mean that's just another weapon for them. But I think the one thing I noticed for the Nets, and I think it's been a common theme even last playoffs, is Steve Nash. Like when it's closing time and down the stretch, like he relies so heavily on
On
KD to just
Yeah,
either shot make or shot create. But when he's getting swarmed like this, like you need a plan B, and they got so many weapons the last year or so. They have Seth Curry, who they got in the James Harden trade.
they have
Uh, you
Bruce
you
Brown.
have you have Goran
It-
Dragic, who every
yeah,
time he comes in the game off the bench, he's getting buckets. Like that's what he's known to do. He's reliable. He's a vet. You have obviously Kyrie, who you can just pawn the ball off to and go get a bucket with him. But he relies so heavily on KD that when he's getting clamped like this, like it's so hard to win games when it's just like a 2 3 point game.
yeah.
And you need like a different game plan. You need to be more flexible when it comes to that in order to pull out these games when your star players is not performing like that, like he usually
Yeah.
does.
And then it gets super predictable too, right? If you just keep on rely on KD every single
Yeah,
time in the clutch, it gets super
yeah,
predictable. They'll start putting guys on him, and then he ultimately has to make a choice to go to like Seth Curry, Kyrie, Bruce Brown, Goran.
yeah.
Um, he can't just look at KD to just like make everything better and win the game single handedly because like clearly he's not. It's not working this series. The Celtics are just like on that. So
Exactly. And when like players like Seth Curry and Patty Mills are getting shots, or even Goran Dragic, like they're making them. Like
yeah,
they're taking advantage of what they have. And since KD and Kyrie are holding the ball so much, like when they don't get shots, like you're missing out on opportunity to get buckets. So I just think you have to use your other players to your advantage. You can't rely so much on your 2 star players and put that burden on them. But I think it's all credit to the Celtics because that's basically their
yeah.
game plan. It's just tire them out, tire KD and
Tire them
Kyrie out.
out, create turnovers, 37 points off turnovers in game 3 for the Celtics. That was huge. They're just stifling the Nets, and Nets
Yeah,
don't seem to have an answer for them.
and
I
you can
think
tell in all 3 of these games, like they're coming down to the wire. It's like I think game 1 was like a 1 point game. The last 2 games have been like 4, 5, 6 point games. So
yeah.
Celtics just are closing better. Nets just don't have that extra gear to go into. And I mean, that's why the Celtics are up
because
3-0.
this is because kind of what you said, they don't have the extra gear because Steve Nash is just like relying on KD, right? He needs
Yeah.
to just trust his other guys, not just Kyrie, but like
Yeah.
you said, Seth Curry, Goran, Patty Mills, Bruce
Just
Brown.
just ball movement in general. You
Yeah,
can't play ISO heavy every
exactly,
time down
exactly,
the stretch. It's just
exactly. That
especially when
cost
they're not cooking
yeah
like they usually do.
cost them in
If
game one, right? Cost them in game one. At Kyrie tried to
exactly.
go ISO and then they just clamped them up. He had to make
I
a
mean,
last second pass to KD and he
exactly.
threw a brick.
And it's one thing to do that when they're obviously cooking in the game, right?
Mhm.
If KD had 40 points in this game and the Celtics can guard him, right? That's the perfect game plan. Just everyone get out the way and give KD the ball, and he's going to get you a bucket. But when he's struggling, he's off his rhythm. Same with Kyrie, like they're not getting good shots. They're not making their shots throughout the game. It's really hard to just start making buckets right down the stretch.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Exactly, exactly.
But yeah, I mean a 3-0 lead, no one saw this coming.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of stuff going around in basketball Twitter and just basketball world in general, just clowning KD, people saying, "Oh, how did he leave the Warriors?" Like for this team.
Don't
I
ever
mean,
compare KD to LeBron.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't mention them in the same sentence. There's a lot of slander coming his way, which I mean, I don't know if it's valid or not, but obviously it's the playoffs is where it matters, and you got to be able to perform in order to be up there with the greats.
yeah, and I just saw Ben Simmons also out for game 4, so that could also be big for Brooklyn. I think
I
he's
mean,
I think he has I feel like he kind of has to play that game. Come on. It's
I don't think he has to. I mean, he's been doing this the whole season. What do you expect? There's
that's
nothing
true,
more you
but
should expect.
yeah, he's
He's not
soft.
available to play.
I
You
think
just gotta.
I think he's kind of soft, not gonna lie.
I mean, I think a lot of people. I think Stephen A. Smith definitely thinks that.
Yeah,
He definitely calling him out. Um, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason the Nets aren't going to come back from 3-0.
maybe. I don't know. Or KD and Kyrie could flip the switch. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
According to everyone, they're the most skilled duo in NBA history. So
I mean, if anyone can do it, it's
it's
KD and
them.
Kyrie.
Yeah,
They're the unicorns. But I mean, Boston's just dominated this series, and I don't see any reason that they would let up now.
yeah, yeah. Definitely for sure.
All right, let's look at the next
Let's move
series.
on. Yeah,
Sixers Raptors. This was a crazy one. Sixers won 104-101 in OT.
Embiid.
Joel Embiid take over game winning three with zero point 0.8 seconds left. He finished with 33 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, just the final play was crazy. Like he they had the ball and Embiid was getting clamped and he had to go towards
Mhm.
half court and it looked like he was about to take a turnaround fading three from like 40 feet. But Doc Rivers called timeout. They come out of the timeout. They drew up a perfect play. They get Embiid on a curl. He gets a wide open three right next to the baseline. No contest really because Sixers running a lot of action. They put double screens on the top of the key. Embiid was wide open, got a great look, and just knocked it down. And it's crazy to think that
Yeah.
a center who's 7 foot
A
that
7 foot
dominant.
centers shooting smooth of a shot. That shot was so
Yeah,
smooth as
it
well.
was silky. It went in like
Yeah.
this perfect swish. It's crazy. I mean, he just completely took over that game. At the end, he was jawing with Drake, uh, telling him that
I'm coming
he's
for the
coming for that
sweep.
sweep, and you can obviously tell that he's trying to get that revenge from 2019 when Kawhi hit
Yeah,
that game
definitely for
winner over
sure.
them. So
Yeah.
it's definitely personal from him. But
It's
I think the
revenge.
Sixers
Yeah.
Sixers definitely were resilient in this game. They played hard. They came back from 17 down early in the game. And now obviously they giving themselves a great shot to now that they're up 3-0 in the series.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And for Toronto, they led. This is a huge blow for them because they led for the majority of the game. Philly didn't have a lead in the whole entire regulation. They took the first lead in overtime with like 3.5 minutes left. So for Toronto, that kind of being down 3-0 after this game, losing this game after being up by like 17 the whole game and not having Philly lead in the whole entire regulation and losing this game kind of puts a dagger in your heart, right?
Yeah, it's kind
Um,
of deflating for sure.
Kind of demoralizing going down 3-0 after this, especially too. The two all-star caliber players, Van Vliet and Siakam, underperformed. 12 points for Siakam, 6 of 16 from the field. Van Vliet didn't play. he just didn't play a good game at all. I think 12 points, 3 for 13 from the field, even though Toronto was up for like the entire game. Like this,
Yeah.
if they played, they should have played better, and they probably would have won this game if they played better.
Yeah. I mean, the game just slipped away from them at the end. I mean, they were leading for basically the whole game. They shot 12 of 18 from the free throw line, which
And
I mean they lost by 3. So
So
I mean that could have been the game right there, but I mean I just think they could have closed better.
yeah,
And down the stretch they just didn't outperform the Sixers, especially without Scotty Barnes. Yeah, they definitely just let the game slip away.
yeah, that's a huge blow for them. They
Yeah.
just got it. They just got this game. Like they gave it away.
Yeah.
They should have won this game.
Especially on that final possession. Like that was just a defensive breakdown from
Yeah,
them.
they left
It was a
Embiid wide open.
miscommunication. Exactly. They just left Embiid wide open. And yeah, I think there's just a few things that a few mistakes down the stretch that cost them the game. I mean, that's just how the playoffs go. The game can swing just with the blink of an eye, and now you're down 3-0 and facing elimination. Like it's pretty brutal.
But I think Scotty Barnes is gonna be back for Game 4, so hopefully,
Yeah.
I
mean, hopefully they'll give him a spark.
Yeah,
I mean,
hopefully Toronto
they just
can
got
turn
to
the
take it
series
one game
around.
at a time. Just got to take it one game at a time.
Hopefully they can turn the series around.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be tough. It's definitely gonna be an uphill mountain for them. But hopefully they can. I think with Scotty back they can do it.
Of course.
Or at least have a good shot.
Exactly. Just got to compete in each game now.
Just
Nothing
as you
to
said,
lose.
just take it one game at a time. Yeah. All right. Should we move
Let's
on?
look at the next game. Yeah.
Let's get the next game. Grizzlies at Timberwolves. The Grizzlies make a huge comeback, 26-point comeback, and win the game 104-95. This game was like really interesting. For Minnesota, it's just like it's a huge blow. Like
if interesting is another word for depressing for the Wolves, then I think that's accurate.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting game for the Wolves. It was depressing, and very depressing. Like there's really like nothing to say. You can't. So they were up by 26 at one point before the half. Then Memphis goes on like a 15-0 run, like a 23-4 run. They cut it down to like 7 or something at the half, and then Minnesota goes back up 23, I believe, something like that.
In the third quarter, yeah.
In the third quarter, and then they go and then Memphis cuts it to 16 at the end of the third quarter, and then they just take over after that. And then one question I have is why didn't Minnesota's head coach Chris Finch call timeout when the Grizz were on like an insane run? He just kept the game going for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know.
I think everyone was asking that question. It made no sense because Minnesota just looked like lost on both offense and defense. Like it was literally on offense, they were just like they were stagnant. They were barely moving the ball. They were barely even getting shots up because Grizzlies were playing great defense, but they also just had no flow in their offense. They couldn't get anything going, and then they were just letting the Grizz were just out hustling them on both ends. Wolves looked really flat. I thought it didn't look like they had any fight left in them for some reason, even though they were the ones in control. They kind of just were submissive or passive to the Grizzlies. Grizzlies were just more hungry for it. They wanted it more at the end of the day. And I think
like there was a point when Minnesota was up like 23 in the third quarter. The Grizzlies just looked out of it. They looked out of it. Then Minnesota just like they couldn't put the dagger in their hearts. They just like they somehow just kept letting the Grizzlies slowly get back into the game, and then that like sparked something for Memphis, and they just like turned it on.
It looked like the Wolves were like just kind of in awe or kind of lost or just ball watching. Like it looked like they were kind of confused as to what was going on. It didn't really look like they had that urgency they need to close out a game. And especially when you have the game like in your control, like there's no reason for you to like kind of feel like you're in the backseat. You should be the one taking it to them rather than like being the submissive one. You want to keep pouring on the lead rather than letting
you want to keep the punches going. You want to keep it going. Yeah. You want to knock them out. They couldn't knock them out.
Exactly.
I mean, and Cat 8 points, and he only shot 4 times. Like that can't really happen, right?
I think more fouls than shot attempts. if I'm
I think
correct.
so. Yeah, 5 fouls,
I
right?
mean,
Something like that.
yeah, 5 fouls. So I mean, that's unacceptable. It's the second time we've seen that in the playoffs or the play-in,
Mhm.
um, with the Clippers game. And I mean, with your franchise player like playing like that, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Um, it's just
Uh,
it's unfair to your teammates who have to pick up your slack, and especially when most of the fouls are just like they are fouls.
silly.
They're just
They're
like
silly
dumb
fouls though.
fouls.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're silly
And
fouls.
in a media interview, Draymond Green said that some players aren't built for the playoffs. Who do you think he was going at Cat here?
I mean, I think he could have, but I don't know why he would be taking shots at Cat in the post
Kind of
game when they
random,
just
but
played
like
the Grizzlies. I don't know. Maybe it was someone on the Nuggets he was going at. Um, some people were saying Aaron Gordon or something, but
maybe,
I don't
but
know.
I feel like it
I
could have
think
been
it
at Cat
definitely
too.
it 100% applies to Cat, even if you meant
It
it or
applies
not.
to him. Yeah, definitely.
But I mean,
I
he
mean,
he can definitely he's definitely capable of bouncing back.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But he needs to prove that though.
Yeah, he
So
just got to
he
have that will to win,
yeah.
that sort of fire in his belly.
Yeah. Yeah, Desmond Bain had he ignited Memphis, part of Memphis's comeback,
Mhm.
7 3-pointers, 26 points. Morant didn't have that his best game.
Yeah,
5 of 18 from the field, 16 points, but he is just an energy booster and a great leader for the Grizzlies, great young leader. He has that like great leadership mindset and just like also along with Bain just sparked that comeback.
yeah, and we also seen throughout the year that I mean the Grizz are just so deep that even without
Yeah.
Jaw, like they're just a dominant
Yeah.
force.
Brandon Clark, I feel like he was one of the MVPs of this game. He was
Yeah,
massive off the
definitely.
bench. 20 points, 16 in the second half, 8
Right.
rebounds. Yeah, he was huge. He was huge for Memphis. Didn't miss a free throw. And then Tyus Jones just 2 dagger threes on his former team, just like
Yeah.
putting it into Minnesota. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a huge game for Memphis because they take back home court now. Now their balls and the series is in their hands, and they're just they have the Wolves right now. They just got to keep pouring it on, really.
Yeah,
And
they
they
have them in
just
a perfect position. Yeah.
yeah, definitely
Kind of like with the Raptors, just like demoralizing after blowing that lead
for
and
the Timberwolves.
for the Timberwolves. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
meant. After blowing that lead and then going down 2-1 in the series, Grizzlies with all the momentum, you have nothing. You have no momentum at all. You just blew a 26-point lead. It's
yeah.
just it's just demoralizing.
That's
You
the
need
good thing for the with the playoffs. You have to have short term memory, like that. You got a game in
exactly.
like
You
two
need to let
days.
it go. Yeah,
You just got to let it
game by
go.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to learn from what happened in the game and make adjustments. And it's a fresh start in game
It
four.
it definitely is easier said than done though, because like
Oh,
as
100%.
as athletes ourselves, I know it's difficult. Yeah,
It's definitely difficult. But I mean, that's what separates the good ones from the great ones. You got to be able to
exactly.
just have short term memory and move on to the next one. But
Exactly.
yeah,
So hopefully they can do that in game 4.
definitely. All right, let's look at the next
Yeah,
series.
let's move
Uh,
on.
Mavs Jazz. Mavericks took this one 126, 118. Now they lead 2-1 in the series. And this one was just like a replica of game two. Jalen Brunson just keep
Back
going.
at it again.
The Jalen Brunson show is back
Show
at it.
continues.
31 points, 6 assists. Mavs had 7 players in double digits. Dinwiddie had 20 points. He had a clutch 3 at the end to put the game away. Jalen Brunson was just getting buckets left and right, just scoring at will. The Mavs hit 18 threes as a team, and they've now made 40 threes in their last 2 games. Maxi Kleber went 4 or 5 from 3 in this game and is now
Yeah,
he's now 12 of 16 in his last 2 games.
he's been crucial for Dallas.
Yeah.
He doesn't miss.
He
I don't
does.
see him
He's
miss.
automatic. Like he's
He's
getting open
automatic.
looks, but he's not missing. It's
Yeah.
one thing to get open looks. It's another thing to make them. So
Mhm.
that's really impressive. Even when Maxi Kleber went out,
Bertans, he's also another sharpshooter.
exactly. But we haven't seen that the last year or two ever since he got that contract.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was really clutch for them. 4 of 7 from 3 in this one. For a guy who was once one of the best shooters in the league. So that's huge from the Mavs. But I think in general, it's just like the Quinn Snyder is just like he's not making the adjustments that we talked about after game
Yeah.
2, right? He's
Mhm.
refusing to take Gobert out of the lineup. When the Mavs are going small, they're playing 5 out. They're giving up an average of 23s, which is in the last 2 games, which is just like a lot in large part due to their poor perimeter defense with Donovan Mitchell and Bogdanovich and Conley. and Snyder's opting to keep in Gobert, which is basically costing them these games because they're giving up so many wide open threes. And the Mavs are just essentially beating the Jazz at their own game in terms of 3-point shooting. In the regular season, the Jazz were ranked second in 3-point attempts and 3-pointers made. And the Mavs were 8th in 3-point attempts and 10th in 3-point made. In the playoffs, the Mavs are first in both 3-point attempts and 3-pointers made, which is unreal.
Yeah.
And the Jazz are now 14th in both categories. So you can just kind of see how the script is being flipped. The Mavs are just beating the Jazz on purely 3-pointers. And that's because of the Jazz's defensive scheme, which is costing them games.
Yeah, and Quinn Snyder is just getting outcoached by Jason Kidd. Although it's not really hard to outcoach Quinn Snyder, as he isn't making any changes at all. It's kind of easy for Jason Kidd, but like, I mean, hopefully it makes the necessary adjustments we've been talking about in Game 4 for Utah.
Definitely.
But like, yeah, Utah's just losing these games, these very easily winnable games, especially
without Luka
Doncic. They're losing these games because of their defense, and they're no perimeter defense. They're just getting beat on threes. Yeah.
I mean, even with like the scoring they're getting from like Donovan Mitchell, he's just gonna get his buckets. They're like, you can't be able to win these games like without having a solid defensive scheme. So
exactly.
I mean, we'll see again in Game 4, but like these adjustments are probably going to have to be made, especially with Luka probably coming back in Game 4.
It's going to be even tougher.
But I mean, anything can happen. Jazz could flip the switch. They could start playing lockdown defense, but you're going to need that in order to get back in the series.
Yeah,
especially after these 2 deflating losses.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully Quinn Snyder makes these adjustments, and hopefully the Jazz can bounce back in Game 4 to make the series a little more interesting. But if they don't, then I don't really see how unless the Mavericks have an off game from 3, I don't see how the Jazz are going to be able to come out with this series or come out with a win in this series.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. Next we got the Warriors and the Nuggets. This was a really good game. I think it was maybe one of the games of the week, games of the Game 3s.
Definitely got us hyped.
Yeah, the Warriors won 118-113 to take a 3-0 series lead. So for the Nuggets, I praise the Nuggets. They came out really hard. They were fired up. They were energetic. They had the whole crowd behind them, backing them. They seemed like they weren't going to play like Game 1 and Game 2. They seemed like they were ready to play. They weren't going to be all defeated. They were going to make this game was going to be close. They knew Game 3 was super important, an important game, crucial game for the series, and they needed to fight really hard. So it made it hard for the Warriors to initially play against with the crowd. Denver's Mile High crowd is one of the loudest arenas in the NBA. Then the Nuggets they were ready to play and fight against Golden State instead of fight each other or the refs.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You definitely would want to do that in order to win.
Yeah, definitely. Jokic was unstoppable this game. 37 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, but Draymond Green, crucial steal on Jokic at the end of the game to seal it. That was massive, especially Draymond had 5 fouls. He played the last 4 minutes of the game with 5 fouls. This had the courage to go for that steal and ultimately did it, which is why he's like one of the best defensive players of like all time, one of the best defensive players in the game. Yeah.
I mean, but I think the story of it is just Steph, Poole, and Clay. Like they just are carrying the load offensively.
Andrew Wiggins was clutch as well. Hit that clutch corner 3 to put Golden State up 112-111 and had that clutch rebound off the Steph miss, which ended up in that crazy Poole circus layup. I don't know how he made that. That put Golden State up by 3 with like 2 minutes left.
One of the best finishes I think I've ever seen. Like especially like at that crucial moment of the game. Like he had a wide open 3 in the corner. It was off a rebound, and he saw the hole was wide open. So he made that read, went in and took some contact and put it through, which is crazy to give up that 3. But it was super mature of him, especially for a young player.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's not underestimate that rebound though. That
Yeah, exactly.
that rebound was huge. That was
It was
one of the
huge for
biggest
them.
plays of the game. One of the
That
biggest
that
plays of the
swing the
game. That
entire game.
hustle by Wiggins. He ran in from the corner to get that rebound.
Exactly.
We
And
don't
Denver
use
would have had a they
yeah.
would have had a fast break.
No, we're not really used to seeing Wiggins just needs to play with that hustle the
Exactly.
whole time. The whole time.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
we need to see that more, I think.
Definitely. And I think like we look so much at Steph and Poole, like their flashiness, but like Clay is like right there with them.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
we see it on the
exactly.
box score, but like when you're watching the game, like you're so amazed by like what Steph and Poole are doing, but you sometimes like don't take the moment to appreciate what Clay's doing. Just he's just a steady shooter. He's
He
just
just does
always
it so quietly.
he
He
does it
just
so
does it so
quietly,
quietly.
so subtly. Like he makes it look so effortless, and
Hmm.
he's just to see where he's come from, missing the last 2 seasons, and now being
Oh
back on
yeah,
the
for
playoff
sure.
stage,
Yeah,
and
it's just
uh,
great to see
it's
him in the
awesome.
playoffs. Yeah. Gary Payton the second was also huge for the Warriors. He went 4 of 4, didn't miss, 3 of 3 from 3-point range and 11 points, which was huge for the Warriors. Gave him a good boost. Um, they so one thing that so Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets, he seemed to come out of his slump. He went 7 for 13 from the field and 18 points. So that could be big for Denver as he's out of his slump. Even though Denver lost this game and is now down 3-0, um,
Mhm.
if Aaron Gordon is playing better, they could have a better shot at like making the next games close and having a chance to get themselves back in the series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but Nuggets didn't play a bad game. They just
They played
kind of
well. They
lost it.
played well.
They lost it
Yeah.
down the stretch. They had the
Yeah.
game in the palm of their hands. And obviously, when you're playing a championship caliber team like the Warriors, who have championship DNA, like it's tough to close out the games, especially when you're with your second and third best player out. I mean, this is a conference finals team 2 years ago, so when they're fully healthy, we know what they can be, and that's
Mhm.
championship contenders. So I mean, you can't read into it too much. Obviously they fought hard, and I think that's the main thing you can take away from it, especially after the two poor performances in San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think things for both teams that they need to improve on going later into this series. They both need to shoot well, the Warriors need to shoot better from the free throw line. They shot 64% from the line.
Yeah.
Both teams need to cut their turnovers as well. Because that's really like costing both of
Yeah.
them. Warriors had 16, Denver had 18, which ultimately Jokic turned the ball over at the end off that
Mhm.
Draymond steal, which like which lost the game for Denver, sealed the game for Golden
Exactly.
State. So
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun game all around.
yeah, it was
Both
a
teams
fun game.
competed
Yeah,
hard.
super
I think
enjoyable
that's
to watch.
exactly. But obviously, the Warriors just had that little bit of edge over them that took them over the top. But looking forward to yeah, I think the Nuggets just got to keep playing hard and giving themselves a chance to win, and eventually it'll go their way.
Yeah. Well, it has to go next game, otherwise they're gone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's now or never for them. They're facing elimination. So, uh, yeah. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to the
Let's
next
move
game.
on.
Heat Hawks. Heat were at the Miami was in Atlanta. Hawks won this one 111-110 in a nail biter and a thriller. Trae Young with a game-winning floater with 4 seconds left, and the Hawks were able to come back from 16 down in the second half to avoid going down 3-0. It was a team effort for the Hawks. 6 players were in double figures. And even with Trae Young struggling as he had throughout the series, he's only been averaging 19 on 40% shooting and 28% from the 3-point line. But in this game, he ended with 24 on 43% field goal percentage and 30% from three. But I think he's just been clamped. I think just because of the Heat
Yeah,
defense,
the
which has
Heat
just been
defense.
swarming them.
Mhm.
Obviously, like Lowry and Butler are just two of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Um, but they've still been able to give themselves a chance. That's with the team effort that they've had, contributions across the board, and now they give themselves a chance down 2-1 going to game four.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And also for Miami, they went on a 21-0 run in the third quarter to go up 16. So they were in like control of this game. Up 16 in the third quarter. They were in control to go up 3-0. So that's kind of huge for the Heat. Changes a lot of things. They were
Yeah,
up 3-0 and only being up 2-1 is like a huge difference.
Exactly.
3-0, you can play. I mean, you can play the game 4 with a little less. You have less pressure on you, right? Ultimately,
I mean, there's obviously you want to close it out in game
you want to
4
close
and
out.
not
There's
have
less
to.
pressure, so you can play more freely, and then it's definitely like easier to play when you're up 2-1. It's a little more tense, right?
I mean, the tension can be. I mean, the tension can be a good or bad thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you're motivated and you're in the game. When you're playing freely, you feel like you have really nothing to play for in a sense, right?
Hmm.
So you don't have that same sense of urgency. Um, but I think just being up 3-0 is like the series is almost wrapped up pretty much. You just have to give the final blow. But I think in general they did a good job throughout the game. They gave themselves a chance to win. They just got a bad break at the end. I thought with Jimmy Butler missing the jump shot with 10 seconds left, they would have gone up 3 and pretty much had control of the game. But
Yeah.
instead,
So
Trae Young goes to the other end, hits the floater.
yeah. So like the story of the game was just like a miss. I mean, not the story of the game, but the like part of the reason why they lost is just like a miss 3. So it's definitely like they could definitely like easily win. They could have easily won
Yeah,
this game.
it was
It's just
anybody's
like
game. So
it's just a miss 3. So it's like nothing
yeah.
too much to panic for the Heat. So
Exactly. Yeah, it was a good game. Just
yeah,
few adjustments for them, and they'll be right back in it. They still
yeah.
had good contributions across the board. With Hero dropping 24, Max Struess with 20 points, which is huge for them, and
Max
obviously
Strus
Bam.
is huge for the Heat.
Yeah, he's playing great for them in the starting role. Bam with the great all around game, 13 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, doing everything on offense and defense. So, I mean, Heat are playing well right now. They're clicking pretty much every sense on offense and defense, and I think as long as they keep it up, they'll be good in game 4 and give themselves a chance.
Yeah. Also, the thing one thing is Kyle Lowry's hamstring injury is also a big thing to note. Um,
Yeah,
that's if he's out. He said he wants to play. He said
yeah,
he said somewhere I'm not going to miss this game, but there
yeah,
could be a chance that he's out. So if he's out, that could be huge for the Heat,
yeah, definitely.
and also
Yeah,
huge for the Hawks. They it could Trae Young could go off maybe, but
yeah,
tough to see Lowry get an injury. Never want to see someone get hurt. So
yeah.
hopefully he can play in game 4.
Yeah, yeah, he's a dog though, so
Yeah,
he'll probably play through anything he can. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, should be a good one. Let's move on.
Let's move on. So we got our next series is the Bucks and the Bulls. There's the Bucks blew out Chicago. They won by 30, 111 to 81. I mean, nothing much really to say about this game. I feel like you probably feel this too. The Bucks are just like too much for the Bulls, even without Middleton. It's just
I mean,
like nothing
it
much
didn't
to
seem
say.
like that in game 2, right?
It's just
Even the
one. I
first
think
two
it's just one.
games.
I think it's just one game though.
I think the first two
Maybe two
games though,
games.
yeah, Bucks were like flat, like they weren't themselves. They were like they seemed like they just weren't turning it on at the
But like
time, and
Bucks at their best with everyone playing super well,
exactly,
it's just they're way too much for the Bulls, especially when the Bulls their big three isn't putting up numbers. Like DeRozan 11 points, Vooch 19, Levine 15,
yeah,
Patrick Williams also 1 point, 0 for 9 from the field. Like how are they gonna win? They can't
yeah,
expect to win if they if the all every member of the big three and
yeah.
like scores less than 20. Patrick Williams has 1 point. Yeah.
And this is what we saw in game 1 when their best 3 players are poorly performing, like they have no shot really to win because they don't have the offense to like only scoring 81 points is kind of insane, especially in a playoff game.
Yeah.
Um, and
The
you can tell
yeah.
that's directly correlated to Vooch and DeRozan and Levine playing below standards. But I think for the Bucks, like we kind of saw throughout the regular season, like they were kind of coasting and
Mhm.
kind of waiting for the playoffs, which they did the year before with the year they won the championship. Um, and I think in game 1 they kind of had that same mentality. They were kind of going through the motions, but in game 2 when they got punched in the mouth, like they really they started to feel like they were under the gun. Like Middleton got injured, like it was looking to be a little bit going downhill for them. But
Yeah,
I think
looking a little scary,
they
but
they turned it on. Definitely, they found their sense of urgency. They found their identity, and they really brought home the win, which was a convincing win to say.
yeah, they bounced back super well. Grayson Allen had a in place of Middleton. He had a really or not in place, but just like the scoring in place of Middleton
Yeah,
came off the bench with 5 threes, 22 points. Giannis, another great game. Not as much scoring, but he didn't take as many shots as well. 7 for
Yeah,
12, 9 assists, which was huge, 7 rebounds, plus 36 plus minus. And Bobby Portis had an amazing game. I feel like he's just a superstar in his role, quoting him as he
yeah,
said in his media interview. He's
yeah,
18 points, 16 rebounds, and Milwaukee just like started off like so quick, and they just never looked back. So there's
yeah,
nothing like much the Bulls could have done except like the big three score more.
yeah,
But that yeah, there's just no shot for the Bulls to win if the big three just isn't producing. And this is the
yeah.
Bulls' largest home playoff loss in team history. So
It's
it'll be
crazy because
interesting. Yeah,
it's their first home playoff game in like 6 years or something, six or
yeah,
7 years.
uh-huh.
So I mean that's pretty tough, but you got another shot at it in game four. So
Hmm.
and I don't suspect the Bulls will, I mean, those top three players are gonna play as poorly as they did. At least you'd hope that they wouldn't have two bad games in a row. Because if they did, that'd be horrible timing and they'd go down 3-1, which would, and going back to Milwaukee, like they're pretty much looking at the end of your season there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, hopefully they can bounce back in game four, but it's gonna be tough against this Bucks championship-minded team. Um,
Yeah.
if Milwaukee's playing like this, especially without Middleton, it's gonna be hard because they seem like they're in like they flip the switch from just like the regular season coasting mode to like
Yeah.
let's go get this championship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they definitely need to come out with a sense of urgency. They need their players to be playing well at the Bulls, and um, that'll give them a shot to even up the series.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Let's look at the
Let's
last
move on.
game.
Let's look at the final game.
Suns Pelicans. Suns took this one 114, 111 in New Orleans.
Really good
I'm
game. Also, one of the
Yeah,
candidates for like game of the game threes.
definitely.
Yeah.
Vintage Chris Paul again. Like we saw in game one, 19 of his 28 points in the fourth quarter, good to go along with 14 assists. And down the stretch, he was just going ISO almost every possession. He was putting Larry Nance and the other Pelican defenders and pretty much on an island, and no one can really stop him when he's on an island. He's getting to a spot, he's knocking down
Yeah.
jumpers, and he's just putting the nail in the coffin, and it's
Yeah.
really tough to stop, especially if you're not double teaming him. But
Mhm.
I mean, he was definitely the catalyst for them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
DeAndre Ayton had 28 and 17, which is a monster game. Um, and JaVale McGee also had 15 points on 7 of 8 shooting. And you can see both of those were probably correlated to Chris Paul's just playmaking and overall just control of the game. He
Mhm.
makes his teammates so much better, especially the big men. They just are getting such easy buckets in the paint. And to go up 2-1 without Devin Booker in a huge road game is huge for them, and it showed
Yeah.
their championship DNA for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Paul, when he gets to a spot, just doesn't miss. Never seen him
Yeah,
miss from there.
that little
Just
mid range around like
just
7-8 feet, like
yeah,
that
just
that
does not miss.
turnaround,
Yeah.
it's undefeated.
And like you said, he just makes everyone better, especially the big men, Ayton and McGee. Ayton just putting up big numbers, 28 points, like 17 rebounds, like you said. Just like huge game for him. Chris Paul just
Yeah,
making his big men um present in the paint, just like letting them go to work with his playmaking abilities.
definitely.
Um
Yeah,
yeah, for the Pelicans, they played a good game, just got beat by they there's nothing they could do. They just got beat by
yeah,
Chris Paul.
yeah. I think it's definitely has to do with experience as well, right? Chris Paul is
Hmm.
he's a seasoned vet in the playoffs. Suns have that championship experience from last year, that playoff experience, and the Pelicans are just they're a young team right now, playing with house money as the 8 seed.
Hmm.
They're still going out there and competing. They have two elite shot makers. Bi had 34 points. CJ McCollum had 30 points. So they're getting their buckets. They also got some help from Devontae Graham and Herb Jones, who both had 12 points, but
Hmm.
they lost Jackson
Yeah,
Hayes
that was
in the
big.
second
That
quarter. Did you see
yeah,
that play?
I did. That was kind of
Yeah,
dumb.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
dumb play.
Jackson Hayes, like you can't be doing that in the playoffs. You it's
It
it.
was definitely it was definitely a 21-year-old play.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can't. You need to be more mature than that,
Yeah,
especially if
so just
if especially in the NBA in the playoffs. You need to be way more mature. You need to think before you do that.
yeah, and that comes with experience, right? He's
Yeah.
never been in the playoffs. Is like his second year, third year, so that's just it's a little bit to do with what the Pelicans are right now.
Hmm.
but they showed a lot of fight in this game. They were competitive, but they just couldn't make it past TP.
Yeah, no, but I feel like every game this series has been super
Yeah,
competitive. The Pelicans are just like
exactly.
right with the Suns, even with
Hmm.
Booker in game one, although it didn't show like in the first half or something, but they were beat they I think they beat Phoenix in the second half like by a decent amount. So
Yeah,
um they are staying right with the Suns and they can make this series like an interesting and competitive series. They already took a game, so
yeah. No, they're definitely right with them. And one
they're
more,
yeah, they're right
they
with
have
it.
another game at home, right? So
Exactly.
they can easily make it
They
a
have a
2-2
really good shot
series.
at the game. If they're playing like this, there's nothing more they could really do. Chris Paul just beat them, but if they're playing like this, they have a really good shot. They were up for like
Exactly.
a they were right with Phoenix this whole game. They only lost by 3, so
Yeah.
they're
No,
right with
definitely.
the Suns. They can definitely make some noise this series. Maybe even come out with an upset, which no one expected at all.
No one
No
would
one
have
expected them to
expected.
even get a game.
Exactly. Or even be in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
um
I mean,
definitely
they were a 9 seed. They just got in through the
exactly.
plan.
Exactly. Is that's what you love to see though. They're the ultimate underdog
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
they're playing hard and they're fun. They're so fun to watch.
Yeah. Super fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap on the
Yeah,
game
that's a wrap.
threes. It was definitely a really good slate of games. A lot of close ones, couple game winners in there too. And game fours are obviously it's getting later on in the series, so the stakes and the intensities are it's definitely just gonna go up from here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Lots of game winners and game playing, game defining defensive plays. Um, so yeah, super excited for the game fours. Yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Thank you guys for
All right,
listening.
we'll see you guys after the game fours, and we'll wrap those up for you guys. Well, I'll give you some good analysis and recap of those. So, all right, we'll see you. Tune out for this episode. We'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you guys.